Everyone has that family member they think is the coolest, right? Sometimes it's a dad or a mom or even a sibling, but for me, it's my granddad. My granddad was the coolest guy I knew. He was always buying us lavish gifts, taking us on trips, and not to mention, his home was very expensive and full of nice things. I knew my granddad had a lot of money, with the gold chains and watches he would wear all the time. Some would say he was rich, but he was very generous with all of his money, and would give us some whenever we needed it, and always had money to give away. Even though I never knew how he got all of that money. The day I was at my granddad's house, I'll never forget. I was stuck watching TV. I was so bored, there was nothing to do, until I had the bright idea to find more rocks for my rock collection in Granddad's garden. Granddad had a dog, so the dirt was always dug up, so there was no need to dig. As I was searching, I came across a piece of what appeared to be plastic, sticking out of the ground. My curiosity got the best of me, so I decided to dig it up. As I pulled it out of the ground, it was a bag of hundreds of dollars. I had never seen that much money in my life. I had hit the jackpot. It was a treasure in Granddad's backyard, and I wondered if Granddad knew, so I ran inside to tell him the amazing discovery. I was thrilled with the news, but Granddad did not seem surprised or excited. I was confused, but he told me a friend of his had given him money on his birthday, and he didn't want to spend all of it, so he buried it, and to keep it a secret or people would get jealous. It seemed like a good idea at the time because people would not be happy for you if you had that much money. I was almost jealous of Granddad because he had so much money. No matter what, I would never tell his secret treasure. I swore to Granddad my lips were sealed. I would never break a promise to him, ever. A few months later, my mom and dad invited me to stay at Granddad's house for a sleepover. I loved going over there because we would play so many games and have the best time building couch forts. Of course I said yes. We had so much fun. I can't name all the things we did, but my favorite game we played was Cops and Robbers. How fun at the time. And when the day came to an end, it was time for me to go to sleep. I said goodnight to Granddad and marched my way to bed. I was just about to fall asleep when I heard a loud ruckus coming from downstairs. I was kind of frightened, but more curious to see what it was, so I went to investigate. As I opened my door, I saw an unknown man dressed in black and wearing a ski mask run to my granddad's room. I shouted, "Granddad," as loud as I could and ran inside the room to be completely surprised. The man took off the mask and it was Granddad. Now I was really confused. My granddad said this was his new costume for this party he would be going to and wanted to try it on. It seemed to make sense until I saw a big bag next to him. My granddad said this was his new costume for this party he was going to and wanted to try it on. It seemed to make sense until I saw a big bag next to him, full of things. I was very confused. Then I thought, oh, this is a part of his costume. Now it makes sense. I still wondered what was in the bag, though. Maybe candy? Who knows, but I thought that was a pretty cool costume. When I came back home, the smell of breakfast put me in a good mood. I grabbed myself a plate and began eating when I heard my mom turn on the news. I never liked listening to the news. There were always bad things happening, and it was so boring. Just then, I heard about 4 houses in a neighborhood being robbed last night. The man on the news said they thought it was the same suspect who robbed a bank 3 months ago. My mom was scared and said she's so glad I was with my granddad, safe and sound, and I was too. But then it hit me. Granddad's birthday was 3 months ago, and that's when he had all that money in the yard. He was dressed in a ski mask, which is what robbers wear. We played Cops and Robbers, and he knew exactly how to play it. It was Granddad. He was the robber. As scary as that seems, it was also pretty cool, right? Criminals are not cool, but my granddad is, so you can say he's a cool criminal. I never told anyone because I always keep secrets, especially Granddad's. I never told Granddad I knew about it because I didn't want him to know I knew, but I did. It's been so hard to not tell anyone, but I knew if I did, I may never see my granddad again, and I don't want that to happen. I thought it was pretty badass for my granddad to do, and even asked him how he knew so much about the Cops and Robbers game. He replied and said to me, "Well, you know, that game has been around for a long time, and I've played it for many years, so I know a thing or two." That will always stick to me, because Granddad knew how to play Cops and Robbers, but in real life.
Parents were eating breakfast in the banquet room, but I was the one with the ruby. I decided to go into the street. The man was still chasing me. I pushed through the crowd, trying to lose him. I noticed a train station and sprinted down the steps. I jumped over the gates and boarded the nearest train. I saw the man watching me through the window as the train started moving. The train stopped at Soka. I found a small cafe and called my grandpa inside. He'd meet me there. He arrived in an hour, looking tired and as if he'd aged years.
"I found a seller," he told me. "We just need to sell that ruby and we'll be free."
"What did you get me into?" I asked. He sighed.
"I stole that ruby 5 years ago for your grandma. I couldn't afford it back then. Apparently it's a cursed ruby that is wanted in the black market here. Those men have been chasing me for years. I thought I could divert them by giving it to you."
"So they started chasing me," I said bitterly.
"I thought they'd give up once they knew I didn't have it." He shook his head. "I'm sorry. Let's go to that cellar."
We found the seller in a back alley. He covered his face with a mask and glasses.
"You have the ruby?" "We do," my grandpa said.
I'd never held so much cash in my life. The seller bowed at us and then disappeared into the alley. My grandpa and I went to his hotel room. He divided the cash and handed me a couple thousand.
"Use this money to buy you and your parents new identities. I'll give you the guy's name."
"What about the rest of the money?" I asked. My grandpa smiled.
"It'll go into your new identities account once you have a new name. I said you were my heir. This is your money."
"You don't want any?"
"I'm too old to need all that money,"
he told me. He grinned.
"Buy you and your parents a nice car."
"I will," I smiled back.